Hello and welcome to another great episode of the Optimize Show. I am David Mamano, your host. Every Wednesday morning, a brand new show. And we're all about helping you optimize something in your business and or your life. That's our focus. Today I have a great guest on the show. His name is Andrew Metz. Andrew, welcome to the Optimize Show.
Thanks so much for having me, David. Love your show.
Thank you so much. You are in lovely Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where me being of the generation would watch Laverne and Shirley in Happy Days. That's how I know about Milwaukee.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of beer.
Don't forget about that 70s show came around a little later. That takes place in Kenosha or Racine, somewhere around here. So there's always a Packer helmet somewhere in their basement. We always love that. But yeah, some good sitcoms come through Wisconsin for sure.
And a lot of beer.
Tons of beer. Yes.
A lot of beer. Yeah.
That's
So
what we're known
Andrew, you're
for.
on the show because you have a great story. You work at a company called Zywave, which is a pretty cool name, Zywave.
Yep.
Tell us about Zywave and what you guys do.
Yeah, our passion is improving the insurance landscape, working specifically with independent agents who ultimately work with businesses to help with HR functions, risk management functions, COBRA, HIPAA, FMLA, OSHA. The driving force is really to help optimize business partners with small businesses in a lot of cases, but in general, people kind of view insurance like this necessary evil, but really good insurance brokers can help with a lot beyond just being the middleman of price and coverage, which, insurance isn't very sexy on the forefront, but being on the tech side, it's been a really fascinating space to be in. Next month will be 15 years at Zywave. It was a 100-person private company when I started, and we're on our third round of private equity holdings, and we've grown from about 100 employees to 1,000 employees, and we're Milwaukee based. We've acquired some companies in New York, actually Manhattan and Dallas, and so we've expanded. But at the end of the day, about half of our workforce is still out of the Milwaukee area. And it's been a cool growing company doing very unique and sophisticated, innovative things in a industry that was ripe to be disrupted. I mean, you've seen it with Uber and Airbnb and kind of challenging old models and doing things in a different way. So that's been exciting. And just to be a part of a company that's 10x in my time there, it's created tons of opportunities for me. And, if you would have told me my first day that I'd be in this role, I probably wouldn't believe you, which is fun and kind of helps me keep dreaming big as I move forward.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I love the reinvention and being disruptive. And by the way, everybody, I want you to know, we're going to focus on optimizing sales today. Andrew has really, risen in the ranks at the company in the sales vertical. We're going to talk about how he has done that and how he optimizes the sales process for his company, and also how he optimizes himself. So it's going to be very interesting. But I want to bring up too about how, you said, Andrew, that companies really need to change and be innovative, right?
Yep.
We were talking about you yourself and me too, every 2 or 3 years, just kind of reinventing, right?
Yep.
Like how Madonna used to reinvent every 2 or 3 years, right? I mean, I remember 80s Madonna, I remember early 90s Madonna, late 90s, et cetera, right? Yeah.
Right.
And now I can't even recognize Madonna, right? So, but always a new Madonna, right? But you brought up Airbnb and Uber, and I teach a class right here in Rochester, a college class, and we're talking about that. Like, imagine 20 years ago, I said to you, "Hey, Andrew, I got an idea. Instead of a hotel, we're just going to start a business where people just offer up their houses, and you don't know these people, right? You don't know these people, and from both perspectives, we don't know who's coming, and I don't know where I'm staying, but that's what we're going to do. It's going to be a great business model. Everyone's just going to trust each other. You'd be like, Dave, you're crazy. Are you doing drugs? Now
Right.
They are the biggest quote unquote hotel chain, right, in the world,
Yep.
right? Or
Right.
how about Uber, right? Oh, no, forget about taxis. We're going to start a business where, you get in the car with strangers, right? Anybody could be a driver as long as they pass some tests, background checks. and it just you don't know who's picking you up, you don't know who's getting in the car. But it's gonna be a great business model, right? Once again, Dave, you're insane, right? And look, now largest quote unquote taxi company in the world, right? So, our parents always told us don't get in the car with strangers. Yeah.
Not true anymore.
Not true anymore. Not true anymore. Now it's no problem. I'm going to get an Uber. I don't know who it is,
Right.
But it's working. It's working. So it's a good lesson, right, on how to, as a current company, how to think about like continuing to optimize your reinvention.
Yeah, technology's created a lot of opportunities, obviously, but I do think I get excited when I think about industries or verticals that are kind of ripe for disruption. As I mentioned, insurance fell clearly in that category, where it was kind of the business of taking people out to golf, taking them out to lunch, and doing their renewal, and it was really relationship based. And now I think it's become, at least in our business, database. It's become more strategic. It's become more about how you can move the bottom line. If you think about, I started Zywave in 2008. You got the 08, 09 recession. Everyone's trying to do more with less. We've gone through healthcare reform. We've gone through changes in the property casualty market. It's hardening due to natural disasters and tons of claims. And now everyone's on smartphones and crashing cars. And so there's changing environments that create different needs, and those that don't evolve will die. As dramatic as that sounds, it's very true. And I think, as a sales leader, one of the things I tell new sellers all the time is, if I sold the way I did 10 years ago, I wouldn't be effective. And it's constantly trying to audit your own skill set to go, what have I not continued to progress with? What have I not what new skill sets have I not learned? How are people buying differently? The B2B transactions changed in the last 3 to 5 years. There's more buyers involved. There's more decision makers. Usually there's someone that needs an ROI case, and then there's someone that's kind of buying on emotion. So there's different ways to sell. And I think sellers that are only good at one angle will struggle, and maybe they'll hit a home run with some buyers that feel that way. But we talked kind of off camera about storytelling. And I think, there's just a mentality of different ways to address it, and kind of continuing to evolve my skill set as a seller, but trying to hone that craft with a large sales team to continue to upskill them and find the skill sets they need to be successful in 2023.
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of optimizing your reinvention is changing the way that you market, changing the way that you do sales. You look at the insurance industry, and the commercials are hilarious, right? You've got Progressive, Liberty, and and so what, in your words, a very boring industry, right? And they've infused some humor into it to give it a personality, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah, you can't watch a football game without seeing seven insurance commercials, right? It's pretty saturated right now.
Yeah. But they've given it more of a brand, right? They've given it more of like a personality, right? So, we all know who Jake is, right? Where's Jake from, right? So
yeah, State Farm, right? Yep. Or Flo, right?
Or Flo, or where's the ostrich, right?
Or the gecko, or the ostrich, or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So very funny. Very cool. So tell us now. Tell us about your sales, role journey, right? So you started the company. There was 100 employees. You were in a sales role, and you've grown. And then tell us about how you have optimized the sales staff, the sales team along the way.
Yeah, well, to be specific, I wasn't even in a sales capacity. I was in a lead gen capacity. What we call is BDR, business development reps, which is a fancy term for cold calling. So I spent almost my first 2 years cold calling, just setting meetings for our sales team, and it was a great foundation. I joke around with sellers now. I manage this big team. I'm like, my first 2 years, I made 100 cold calls a day and cleaned the toilets at night, and as basically true. It was kind of just doing everything and really honing the craft of, I've hired people. I've done door-to-door sales. I've hired people. I've done harder B2C type stuff. And I think there's a skill set of confidence of, yeah, I'm going to get rejected. Doors are going to get slammed in my face. People are going to hang up on me. People won't get what we do. And really that persuasive quality of like, I got you for 5 seconds. What am I going to say that's going to keep you on for 30 seconds? That's going to keep you on for 5 minutes so that I could set an hour-long meeting. And that's a skill set that I think is probably going away and dying. And there's different ways to set meetings now, and there's digital marketing and more incoming ways. But I do find the persuasive skill set to be one that was foundational for me as I moved into actually running the meetings and what we say carry a bag, having a quota, and living that kind of month-to-month life. Was that I always had the ability to go set my own meetings. I wasn't waiting for marketing or the other BDR teams. Like I could kind of be self-sufficient. So I was in the field, as we'd say, for 3 or 4 years, and then I was a frontline manager and a second line manager. And like we said, every couple of years at a growing organization, was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to kind of take on the next challenge and change my skill set. And now I'm to the point where I have 3 leaders that are what we call regional vice presidents, but they're basically second line managers. So they have frontline managers rolling up to them. And, how you lead second line leaders is different than how you lead direct sellers. And there's a different level of passion and urgency or tactical, or, it's a little more cerebral at the top. It's a little more psychologist. It's a little more like of a thinking strategic. How do we play this, as opposed to kind of like, here's the playbook, run it, rah, rah, let's go get the troops. And I love all that stuff. That's been fun. I think one of the things I really valued is throughout this journey, I think I've had 12 to 13 sellers become frontline leaders, and then some of those became second line leaders, which is really rewarding. I've had the opportunity to hire probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 salespeople over the last 10 years of being in sales leadership, and exciting, meet a lot of interesting people. Not everyone stays forever, but all 3 of my direct reports I've worked with for 10 years or more, which is pretty unique in the private equity SaaS software as a service space, where it's a little more churn and burn. But we found something that sticks, and we've continued to work hard. And you got to perform. It's a little bit of survival of the fittest in the private equity space. So we've ran hard for a long time, but I like being held to a high standard. I like having teammates that are held to a high standard. And I think, ultimately that's how you get better. I don't want to be bored. I don't want people around me to be content with just being average. And so it's been a really fun and exciting and really challenging environment all at the same time.
How do you find salespeople? It's so hard, right? I mean, I was running an organization for 20 plus years, and I think my record was, maybe 1 out of 7, right?
Yeah.
Hire 7 people, one would stick long term.
Yeah.
It's so hard, and we set up some top grading, and we set up a lot of kind of strategies to put people through a filter to make sure they're the right fit, the right benchmark for our company and for the role. And even then, I tried all these different things, right? And it's tough. How do you ensure that you're getting the right person and then helping them, retaining them, I guess, by engaging them?
You're not alone, and we have these conversations with the independent agents that we work with as well. They're trying to find insurance professionals to go out and sell their services and their lines of coverage. And I think we found in that space, it's about 2 out of 3 don't pan out past 2 years. So your hit rate of 1 of 7s, you're not alone. And it's expensive, it's time consuming, especially if you're pouring your heart and soul into people and they don't pan out. That's hard. What we found is, I have a very good recruiting team who's doing a lot of screening. I think a couple of things I found, I probably ran, 600 to 700 sales interviews in the last 10 years. It's a lot. And I think one of the things I found is asking a lot of not just hypothetical, but specific questions in the interview process has been very helpful. So everyone says they make 100 cold calls a day. Everyone says they've done, been over goal. And I'm not saying people are lying, but I'm saying, there's levels of gray in areas where it could be perceived that way. But saying, give me an example of a time where you had a major objection with your prospect that you were able to overcome, or What was a time that you've been below goal and how did you fix the situation? And asking for specifics, I think, kind of cuts through the hypothetical and the reality and determines whether they really has the rubber met the road. You've seen adversity and how have you handled it. So that's one thing. Now, an interview, you spend an hour or 2 hours, or you run 2 or 3 interviews. I think you can learn only so much. Our process has been we've had anywhere from a 6 to 8 week boot camp that after we're hired, we put sellers through, and we do not have 100% pass rate in that. And we're not there to cut people. They're employees, and we expect them to be long term. But I would say throughout that process of the 200 people I've hired, we have like an 85% pass rate. So 15% of the time, if they're not showing up, if they're not preparing, if they're not taking it seriously, where there's smoke, there's fire. And sometimes at the end of that, we'll make the tough decision to make a cut there. But we feel like it's better for their career to go find something else if we think it's not a fit. And at the end of the day, we try to highly vet out our sellers before we release them to the field. And even with all those, we still don't get it 100% right. So I will say when we bring in new sellers, they are impressed with the tenure of our sellers, but really our leadership. Almost every one of our sales leaders, and we have maybe, I don't know, 12 or 15 sales leaders that they've all had kind of frontline, carried a bag, been successful. They might not be the world's best salespeople, but they've been successful enough to achieve a President's Club qualification or, been over goal many years. And so they can kind of show the way. And that helps a lot to kind of have that street credibility. I think I made our President's Club 6 or 7 times before I moved into the VP tier. And not that it's something you brag about, but people know when you can jump on meetings and help close deals and make things happen, or give feedback and critiques and, mock presentations that help. So, there's something to be said about having some chops yourself to help guide them, but also being very meticulous and thoughtful about who you're hiring and putting them through the ringers to ensure that, they're the right person. Because it's not just about the organization getting their production. I think, there's a two-way street where it's a person investing their time and their career. And if it's not a fit and that, you probably owe it to them to go let them find something they're going to be successful in. And, people appreciate that. And I've kept in touch with a lot of people that have come and gone, sold for years and left. And it's great to keep relationships and, we can mutually help each other out at the very least, bounce ideas off each other. So we've done a lot of that too.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you for that. We're also going to talk a little bit more about how you optimize your own performance. Now, if people are watching this, I mean, without the beard, you probably look 22. So maybe that's why you grew the beard, right? Is there a wrinkle? Is there a wrinkle in your face?
It's funny. I used to always think I was the young guy at Zywave because I started 24 years old. Now I'm the old guy at Zywave because I'm almost 40, but that's a different story. But go ahead.
You're ancient. Yeah. We'll get you a cane for your birthday. Yeah.
Relative to the company, I'm not saying I think I'm young. I'm young at heart. I'm just talking about a tech company that skews a little younger. That's all.
Yeah, I love it.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off. You're talking about my beard.
Oh yeah, no. I was just saying, like you're drinking water, right? So what are some of your personal optimization strategies?
Yeah, I think one of the conclusions I came to in the last 4 or 5 years is that those that are top performers in the professional space have optimized their personal life, and I think that can mean a ton of things. I think people kind of think of like health and fitness, and that's been part of my journey for sure. Alcohol consumption, diets, exercising. I became a marathon runner a couple of years ago, and that was something that seemed like a far-fetched maybe 5-10 years ago. And but I think about personal relationships. I think about stability at home, and it's chaotic at home. I have 4 kids, a middle schooler and a 3-month-old and 2 in between. So it's wild. But there's also some level of, you got to know what your purpose is, what you're doing. I know some people that don't have clear personal goals or ambitions that find it hard to roll out of bed and be fired up and excited if you don't know kind of what your purpose is or what your why is. But I think, I've made some lifestyle changes myself that I think have bled into the professional space, certainly as a leader. I've had creating content through LinkedIn. I think people have had more of a window into my personal life, which is fine because at the end of the day, I think if if it's inspirational that you think your leader is doing something that you admire, then you're probably more willing to run through walls. And one of the things I tell my leaders all the time is your sellers should expect a lot out of you because you're making money when they're successful. They should expect a lot out of you, right? If you're running, if I'm running hard for my boss, who's the CRO or the CEO, I better admire those people to some degree. If I don't, I should probably find a different organization. So I kind of have a higher expectation with my sales leaders. They should carry themselves in a certain way, both in their character and their motives, and if they can be good role models outside of the organization, I think that's a positive thing. Whether that's donating their time, coaching youth sports, doing something positive for the community. I think we've got into some nonprofits that we've been involved in. I got a lot of people that coach sports in the community or involved in the church or whatever. At the end of the day, people admire people that are challenging themselves, doing good in the world, and I think there's probably less separation between the personal and the business life post COVID as everyone's in their environment, their home environment. You probably could say something about me just based on what's behind me, or people, social media has kind of made a gray area between personal and professional. I think LinkedIn's definitely in that conversation. So I think it's important that you carry yourself in a certain way, and that people at least respect who you are and what you're doing. And I think the standards raised a bit, whereas maybe I'd say 5 years ago, it's a little more like you show up from 8 to 5 and your life's kind of encapsulated there, and then you have your own personal life. And I think some people are uncomfortable with that, but I think it's just the reality of where we are in 2023. And, how do you build a culture in a remote fashion? I think that's a topic I'm really interested in as well. And how do you break through the barriers when you're just kind of on the screen and maybe you're not in physical proximity? Because I've managed sales teams in person for many years, where they were in Milwaukee, and then we shifted a little more remote, and then COVID kind of blew the whole thing up. And I go into the office 1 or 2 days a week, and we get to have that camaraderie, but it's really only about a third, maybe a quarter of my team. The rest are remote. So how do they feel involved and not out on an island and a part of the organization and the culture? And those are all things we strive towards, and still working towards it. But I know a lot of organizations are, and it's definitely a challenge, and it's an opportunity too here in 2023.
How do you engage a remote team? Make sure they feel special and getting enough attention?
Yeah, I mean, I think different people have different needs, right? I think a lot about like the 5 love languages, if you're familiar, and sometimes it's words of affirmation or gift giving or acts of service. And I think kind of getting to the heart of what motivates people. Some people want to be, some sellers who call like lone wolves, or want to be left alone to, don't micromanage me, let me do my own thing. And I think some people need recognition in the sense that, hey, I saw, no one was watching, but I saw you did this thing. And I think that's really great. People appreciate that too. So I think it kind of comes down to, if I have a sales leader that has 8 sellers, and I would go pick one person and go, what do you think makes them tick? What do you think makes them tick? And then getting to it. It was funny. I gave a gift to someone, and he said to me, yeah, I love gift giving. That's one of the 5 love languages as well. And I never understood gift giving. That just doesn't make me tick. And he said, the reason I love it isn't because I get gifts. It means that you were thinking of me when I didn't know you were thinking of me. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to say. And it resonated with me of, yeah, people care about different things. So I think that's the heart of it. Sometimes it's hard to spend quality time through a remote fashion, but I do think there's opportunities where sometimes these meetings are, more personal in nature, more what's going on in the home front, more what are your dreams, desires, goals, career aspirations, skill sets I can help you with. And sometimes it's more tactical. We're talking about the deal, we're reviewing pipelines, we're trying to move things, we're jumping on meetings with people. So there's different there's different stylistic ways to run meetings, and I think there's a time and place. And for me, it's a bit of a gut check of when to do what. I think that's a little more art than it is a science. But I think it's something that, leaders need to think about is if all of your meetings are just kind of a one-on-one weekly vanilla, and you got someone that needs the quality time or needs to have the, all right, let's all take our, business hats off and just talk a little life. That I think that's on the leader to kind of feel that out and be able to address those needs. Easier said than done, but that's what I found.
Right. So Andrew Metz, thank you so much. Zywave, how can they learn more about you and get in touch if they want to reach out to you?
The best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. Fairly active on LinkedIn. Talk about my personal life, talk about work stuff, talk about personal development, and you can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to connect and love to continue the conversation.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate it. I wish you continued success, and thanks for doing all the great work you're doing.
Thanks so much, David.
And thank you. And thank you, Optimize family, for watching another great episode. Hope you learned a lot. Reach out to Andrew. He's wonderful. He gets back to you right away. And he's a regular guy that can share a lot of his success. And success leaves clues. And he's willing to give you, to unlock the clues for you. So thank you so much, everybody. Once again, another Optimize show every Wednesday morning. Big favor, subscribe, like, share, all that awesome stuff. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and make sure to stay awesome.